Am I right, Garland? Welcome to the show. It's been quite a tumultuous week.
Yes, it is. Thank you for inviting me. And actually, I'm no longer on the board for about 2 months ago. I was on for many, many years, but I haven't been on for about 2 months ago of the American Civil Liberties Union. But it's interesting that what you bring up because of the dynamic that's going on here in the United States due to the 24-hour media circus of propaganda. And the issue here, I would say, is not ignorance of the facts. It's something much worse. It's false certainty. It's people who believe the opposite of reality, and they're certain that that's true.
I agree with you. There are stupid people, of course, in every country. There are malignant people, and there are that in every country, including Britain, America, Russia, Ukraine. But there's also a group of people in between who have become messianic on this subject. It's almost as if Tony Blair was leading them. I remember the period very well in the run-up to the war in Yugoslavia, in the run-up to the war in Iraq. There's a messianic fervor about it all. At least here. What's it like there?
Yeah, it's the same thing. They're creating a constant push of beliefs that we're the good guys and that the Russians are the bad guys, the blue team versus the red team kind of thing. And there are basically three things that are being pushed. I've been talking to people around, asking questions, probing a bit. Three things that you have to believe right now if you're an American and you're watching the mainstream media. Number one, Russia's losing the war. They're getting beaten much worse than they could have ever had imagined. Number two, the entire world supports the United States. And what I've asked people is, do you include South America? Do you include Africa? Do you include the Muslim world or China or India, the two most populous countries on earth? And they just kind of, look and the smoke comes out of their ears. And lastly, and this is very dangerous, people believe that there will be no economic fallout from the sanctions. When I bring that up and I say these sanctions are very dangerous, particularly in a globalist world, and the economic fallout is going to be significant, I hear in a nonchalant manner, oh, no, it's going to really hurt Russia, but it's probably not going to bother us. And I think down the line, when people start feeling that pain, it's going to cause for significant unrest.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. For example, the banking sanctions have driven Russia out of the SWIFT and into the CIPS, the Chinese equivalent of the SWIFT, thus dealing a major blow and an ongoing one to the value of the dollar and the ability of the dollar to continue to be the world's reserve currency. Increasingly from now on, the Chinese currency will be the world's reserve currency, at least half the world, maybe more than half the world. So the dollar is going to take a tanking. The price of gas, which was already vaulting exponentially before this crisis, our gas bill has more than doubled. Some people's gas bill has tripled already, before the impact of the sanctions. So if petrol and gas is doubling, tripling in price, how could that not create an economic crisis? Question then is, who will be blamed?
Yeah. And, regardless of who's blamed, it will create unrest. Keep in mind that our economy has not recovered from the decisions that were made during COVID. And we are still experiencing the highest inflation in the last 40 or 50 years right now. Gas prices are up. And our leaders, we know that they were warned by their economic advisors not to go too far with economic sanctions. And it's possible that they have opened a Pandora's box that could spin out of control. I've been monitoring the markets a bit of metals, zinc and copper and things of that nature, certainly wheat. And let's keep in mind, wheat is used in cosmetics. Wheat is used in various medications. So at this point, if we continue down this road, if they don't pull back on the sanctions regime that's being levied, we have no idea how bad this could get. But, the American people at some point, I think, will turn their attention from, okay, Vladimir Putin, the bad guy, to, wait a minute, I can't afford a gallon of milk and a loaf of bread. And that's when our leaders are going to, I think, pay a price.
Now, I talked earlier to Jackson Hinkle. I'm interested in this subject, and I'd love your take on it. There seems to be more opposition to NATO policy, to Biden's policy, in the United States than there is in Britain. Never mind the rest of Europe. Even Ireland has gone full Tonto or NATO. Britain, the liberals, the centrists, the right wing, all the people that didn't believe anything the media told them over Brexit and other things are now, just like that, are believing everything the media tells them again. But in America, I sense that there is a more serious opposition.
You are correct. You know what happened, and I think some of this happened during COVID. There were, questions about the measures taken during COVID, about some of the draconian measures, and the inconsistency throughout the United States of the measures. And as you know, the U.S., the results were disastrous, and the death count and the case count was phenomenal here. So I think that created a class of people, if that's the right term, that are very that are reticent to accept the mainstream tropes that they get. And I think that has bled over into here. And yes, it is surprising when I go on social media and when I talk to people that it's much more than normal, much more than I would expect. A greater number of people are at least questioning the mainstream narrative that this is just, that Vladimir Putin just woke up one day and decided to invade Ukraine, and that we should not dig into the history. We should not question any of the things that we are being told. And there is a thirst for alternative media here, and I think that is something that our leaders are having a problem with. They're working hard to quell it, to squelch it, to censor it, but there is a powerful thirst here for alternative media.
The so-called left are gung-ho, and the so-called right are more skeptical. I saw Candace Owens earlier. I've been listening to Tucker Carlson. There's a kind of a cross-dressing going on, Garland.
And a big part of that, I think, was Russiagate. They created the dynamics for that with Russiagate, so that anything involving Russia, when it comes to the Democratic Party, anything involving Russia, people were open to accept that the Russians were pure evil. So whatever they did was going to be motivated by evil. If I can say, the good thing about it is the Democratic Party has been so bad over the last year that there are so many people, both to the left of the party and the right of the party, has abandoned them and don't trust them. The mistrust for Joe Biden and the lack of support for Joe Biden, I think, also is one of the reasons why there are so many people questioning the Biden administration's arguments and positions on this particular operation.
Finally, and thanks for your time, Garland, on this midweek extra. How will this all affect the midterm elections, in your view?
Well, here's what I think is going to happen, because the reality is this. At some point, if history is any indicator, here's an example. It took the United States, when they attacked Iraq, the illegal invasion of Iraq, it took about 3 weeks to get to Baghdad. I suspect that within 3 to 4 weeks, the Russians will have a conclusive advantage in Ukraine. Things will be different, and we will start to see things shake out. But the economic fallout, I think, is going to be what's going to decide how things go in the future, both in Europe and here. And I think that when people start seeing the gas prices, the fuel prices, the lack of availability of some of the products they're accustomed to, and of course, industry cannot run if it doesn't have zinc and nickel and all of these things that we don't think about every day.
Neon.
The layoffs,
I was amazed that Russia is the biggest exporter of neon.
Yes, but in the end, it always come back to it's the economy, stupid people. There are people who are literally afraid right now, and I see that everywhere. That, oh no, I'm afraid of nuclear war. If that fear goes away, I think, and if the actual fighting comes to some level of conclusion, once that dissipates, it's going to be all about the economy because they're going to feel the economic effects. And as the summer goes on, I suspect they're going to get worse, and the Democratic Party is going to face a historical wipeout.
Imagine,
but not that the Republicans are any better.
Imagine Las Vegas without the neon. I said finally, but I can't let you go before asking you this. What did Nancy Pelosi mean when she stood behind Joe Biden, rubbing her knuckles together? What's that about?
That's a good question. I looked at that, and I'm like you. I was left with a question mark on my forehead also. I don't know what that means. But, when I looked at the leadership of the United States, when I saw Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi standing together, I just thought it's no wonder we're in such a disastrous position right now with a leadership so incompetent, so comically incompetent and tragically incompetent. There's no way that we can go in any other direction but straight down the drain.
Well, nobody could put it more powerfully than that. Garland Nixon, thank you for joining us on the mother of all talk shows.